Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Play Branson, where you get to know Branson entertainers better. My name's Chris Myer. I'll be your host for today. And on today's show, we have two new young artists to Branson. I have Alexis Solheid and Matthew Boyce. And so they are from the Americana Theater. They're in the awesome 80's show and also rock and roll royalty. And so I know you're going to want to hear their story. It's really great. And also their new shows. And so you need to know about these new shows that are in Branson. I want to give you a couple 80's facts. And because we're going to be talking about the awesome 80's. And if you've watched this show very long, you know that I am a product of the 80's. Well, did you know that you didn't have to buckle your seatbelt up until 1984? Boy, that was a long time ago. Did you know that candy bars cost 25 cents in the 80's? Did you know that Olivia Newton-John's Let's Get Physical song was the decade's most popular song? I can just see the video of them doing aerobics in that in that thing. Also, Michael Jackson was the most popular artist in the 80's. MTV first hit the air in 1981. The first Chrysler minivan, how about that? 24-hour news began in 1981. I'm not sure that was a good thing. I don't know. And actually back in the 80's, you had 3 channels unless you subscribed to cable, and then you only got a few more if you did subscribe to cable. My, how things have changed. 83 million people watched to see who shot J.R. Ewing, if you remember the show Dallas. And I didn't even know this, but did you know that in the 80's, McDonald's launched pizza? Obviously, it didn't work because they don't have it today. So those are a couple 80's facts for you. And so, folks, we'll be back in just a second with these new artists here in Branson. Hang tight.
There are so many things to do in Branson. You need help planning and booking all your fun. You need iBranson.com. You can find everything Branson has to offer from your computer, tablet, or cell phone. You can even buy tickets online or talk to one of their friendly Branson travel specialists. There's no sales pitches, no delivery fees, no service fees, and no waiting. It's fast and easy. Find your fun at iBranson.com. Do it all online or call 877-ENTERTAIN. That's 877-368-3782. iBranson.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to Play Branson. And today, for the first time ever, I have two entertainers from the awesome 80's show. I have Alexis Solheid, I got that right?
Yes, you did.
And Matthew Boyce. And so welcome to the show, y'all.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So it's good to have you here. You guys are kind of dressed similar. You got, I'm guessing this is part of the 80's costumes.
Yeah, a couple of costume pieces.
And so we want to talk about the show because it's a new show. But before we do that, we always go back and talk history. And how did you get into this business? And so we'll just start with you, Alexis.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Minnesota, and I grew up with a family that came to Branson often. So I have grandparents, they have a timeshare here in town. So I grew up every other year coming to Branson with my grandparents, seeing all the shows in town, and begging my dad when we left to make us move here and have a show and perform with my sisters. And so I knew what Branson was. I grew up coming here, seeing all the shows. And then I went to college in Minnesota for a little bit, performed all through high school, middle school. Went to college actually for political science and Chinese. Oh, wow. And then had the fun conversation with my parents of, hey, never mind, I want to do musical theater school, which was a fun conversation to have. And so I transferred, went to musical theater school, and then the world shut down because COVID hit last year. I was a year into my musical theater training, and COVID hit, and my college decided they were not going to go back in person. We were going to be all online, and I was doing some theater in the Twin Cities. All of that was shut down. And my mom just mentioned, like, hey, Branson, I heard was opening back up, doing some shows again. Maybe you should look into that. So I ended up cold emailing every theater on the Strip. Wow. And within a couple of days, just everything worked out the way it needed to. And I had lined up a job in an apartment, and I moved down, not sight unseen because I'd been here, but it'd been a few years. So kind of sight unseen. And started working at the Americana in tech positions, working for Chris.
So you got your foot in the door.
I did, yes. Got my foot in the door doing all sorts of tech stuff and backstage stuff, just kind of saying yes to everything that I could. And then I met Matthew, actually, because he was doing rock and roll royalty, doing Elvis at that time. And they needed a girl to sing backup for a couple of shows. And so I did that. And then that turned into a full-time position in rock and roll doing female tribute, which then this year has devolved into some auditions and offers for 3 other shows at the Americana and subbing 2 more at Hamner's right now. So.
You know what I love about this story, folks, is you just took a risk and you came to town and you're like, I'm going to get involved. And you started, and it's just grown since then.
Absolutely.
Love it, love it. Okay, let's hear your story.
So I'm actually from New York and did a lot of musical theater growing up. I've been doing Elvis since I was 3 years old. I was the kid, that was doing Elvis in the living room, watching the movies on TV. And so by the time I was, 15, I had a couple different touring gigs, and I was traveling doing Elvis, and then went to school for music business and with a minor in theater. And I really just wanted to do something else. And I came to Branson for a one-time gig last year in February before COVID, fell in love with it. And then we did the same thing. We were planning a show and we emailed a bunch of different theaters and we landed with the Americana doing rock and roll. And then by the end of the year, we had plans to open up the British Invasion show and then helped with the 80's show. And it just kind of grew from there. So it's been a ball ever since. Just fell in love with the Ozarks. Never even heard of Branson before last year. And
now, where were you originally from?
New York.
New York. And so when people say they've never heard of Branson, I ask them, I go, are you from the East Coast or the West Coast? Because most people in the Midwest have heard of it.
Yeah.
If they haven't been here.
Yeah.
So
my family and friends knew, but like me and like a couple of people my age were like, what? But my parents were like, oh yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, cool. Let's go for it. And came down the day town shut down last year and sat around for a little bit, and then we opened mid-May and been rocking ever since.
That's awesome. What a great story. And here's the thing I love is you guys are both young. Mm-hmm. And there's like this younger generation that is now, I think, discovering Branson and entertaining in Branson. And I always say we just need that fresh blood. Mm-hmm. It's good. And it's nothing wrong with having older people entertain, but we need to have new people coming in here to entertain as well. And so that's exciting. And so your paths were almost, in some respects, somewhat similar.
A little bit, yeah.
Coming
from doing theater in our home states and then ended up coming here to keep working.
Yeah.
On a whim during COVID.
Yeah.
Well, and the nice thing about Branson, and I will just say, I don't think we did a good job telling the world we were open, but we were one of the few places that were actually open for live entertainment.
Yeah.
And, it's just, once this airs, it was just recently that Broadway announced they were opening after being 18 months closed, and now they still have all these crazy restrictions. And I'm like, why go there? Come to Branson where people are more free. Right.
Yeah, definitely.
And people have to determine their own risk with COVID. And it was a very difficult time for entertainers.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, but you guys capitalized.
We stayed open.
A little bit, yeah.
Rock and Roll Royalty was actually the first show to open in Branson last year, post-COVID. And Americana Theater was featured on a couple different local news places for the protocols we were going through last year to keep everyone safe with temperatures and, distancing. And we still have a little bit of distancing involved if you do want to stay safe. We're still distancing our seating a little bit. But if you want to get up close and personal and get up close with the acts and meet and greet with us, you totally can. But, we try our best to make sure everyone feels safe and comfortable in the space, too, while they're traveling. Masks are optional, and we don't judge you if you do them. If you wear them, you don't wear them, things like that. It's all up to people coming in. They can choose what they want to do.
I think in Branson, we determined adults can be adults and can make decisions for themselves, where in other parts of the world, they haven't figured that out yet. So anyway, and I think that's why Branson was so busy this summer too, is people appreciated that stance. And, Hollister's kind of done that since day one, is people are adults and they can make decisions for themselves, So anyway, enough on the political aspects of what we're doing here. The other thing, Alexis, I love is that you came here on vacation.
Yeah.
And so you're like, I want to be in Branson someday,
Yeah.
And so do you remember any of the shows that, like, when you were younger, like, that influenced you?
Oh, I saw just about everything. I have very vivid memories. My grandparents and I would always go see the Presleys, and we'd get the VIP seats and do the Presleys. We did the Bald Knobbers back when they were still at their Bald Knobbers Theater, where Wonderworks now is, and we saw them. We saw a few different shows. I know we had seen some shows at the IMAX, but I'm not entirely sure which ones. And then we actually we had never done Sight and Sound. We always wanted to, and so I took them when they came back to town a couple months ago, and we got to do Sight and Sound for the first time. But a lot of my memories were around some of those kind of foundational shows, the Bald Knobbers and the Presleys.
Okay.
And the Bretts were another big favorite of mine. It was my top pick. Every time we came to town, we had to go see the Bretts. So we would see them too. And
the Bretts are very, very good, and it's going to be good to have them back in Branson, hopefully this Christmas season. And we may actually have them on the show soon. So you'll have to stay tuned for that. Actually, this is a great place to stop. We're going to stop here, and then we'll come back and talk about these new shows in Branson. Hang tight.
Awesome 80's takes you on a journey of the best artists and groups that'll make you jump out of your seat. Every breath you take, you'll be living on a prayer as you recall the glory days of ROCK in the USA. We've got the beat, but the moment you relax, wham, you're back in the danger zone. You'll be dancing on the ceiling along with this amazing cast. So get footloose and don't stop believing. Because who are you going to call to get tickets? Awesome 80's at the Americana Theater.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show, and we're going to actually talk about two shows today. Now, most times we talk about one, but both of them are in both shows. But we have Awesome 80's and then Rock and Roll Royalty. And we're going to start out with Awesome 80's. So Alexis, I've never seen the show. I'm guessing there's a lot of people that haven't because it's a newer show. And so tell people about the show.
Yeah, so Awesome 80's, brand new this year at the Americana Theater. It's just kind of an 80's explosion, if you will. That covers, it's a full production show, a cast of 6 singers and dancers, 3 guys and 3 girls, all singing and dancing to your favorite 80's hits. Tons of high energy songs and dancing and costume changes. And it's a 2-hour show, and we cover all different genres of 80's music. Everything from 80's pop to kind of your hair band, hard rock and roll stuff, to your tropical 80's songs like Conga and Kokomo, and then we do
Beach Boys then.
Veterans Tribute at the end, of course, and we just cover a broad variety, everything from Guns N' Roses to Madonna to Cyndi Lauper, George Michael, the whole.
Did you guys hear that? Guns N' Roses on a Branson stage. You didn't think it would ever happen, but
Zeppelin.
it has. Huh?
Zeppelin, Def Leppard. You're
Def Leppard.
Yeah.
Which Def Leppard do you do?
Oh, we do Pour Some Sugar. We go nice and we go crazy.
That, I tell you what, I want to go see this show. This is see, I grew up in the 80's. I graduated in 88 from high school, so that tells you how old I am. But, so the people that are coming to the show, what are they giving the fist? Are they getting up dancing? Are they excited?
Yeah, we've seen a little bit of everything. We have people who get up and dance in the aisles with us. We have people cheering and screaming and hooping and hollering. We have people who sometimes are a little quieter, but then still after the show say that they love it. And the fun thing that it's been fun to see is that we are seeing all generations coming to this show as well. We'll have mom and dad bringing their high school and elementary school aged kids and their parents who are in their 70s or 80s, and then coming out afterwards and telling us, we didn't know if everyone would like this show, but every single person in our group knew the music and was singing along and liked the show. And I think that's something that's really unique about 80s music and the 80s time period in itself, is that it's music that my parents grew up with, it's music that I grew up with, it's music that their parents know because their kids were growing up with it. And it's just so intergenerational that I think anyone can come to this show and know at least half to 2/3 or all of the songs and be singing along and enjoying the show.
And folks, this ties in perfectly to what I've been telling you about how Branson is a place where grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, and the kids can come. And then this is a great show where you're just saying, the whole family can come and enjoy that together. And there's not a lot of places, quite frankly, in the country that this can happen.
Yeah.
And so, but I also think it's really interesting when you go to a ball game and you continue to hear them play 80's music. And quite honestly, that's the people that are sitting out in the audience. And so when I go to a ball game and they're playing this new stuff, I'm like, who are they playing this for? Because it's mainly a lot of parents, and you got to cater to the parents sometimes. So, okay. Anything else you want to tell us about the show? Did we catch it all there?
I think we caught most of it, yeah. Okay. It's a very fun production show, really great lighting, lots of really, really good choreography and costume changes, and a super talented cast. We have a really, really great cast of girls and guys putting everything into their show. And it's a ton of fun. I think anyone could come and enjoy this show.
Awesome. Okay, Matthew, tell us about Rock and Roll Royalty.
Yeah, so Rock and Roll, this is our second year open, but we like to joke, last year was our first year open. So this is our first year open, and we're really loving it. It's everything from your foundational rock and roll, like your Elvis, your Buddy Holly, Johnny Cash, all the way through the 70s. We get into some Carole King, Fleetwood Mac. We hit some Roy Orbison in the middle, Elton John, tons of stuff. It's really rock and roll Hall of Famers that really sculpted the foundation of music as we know it today, but showcasing some of their biggest hits over the years. We start in the 50s and go all the way kind of through, and you kind of see music progressionally grow as we go through the 50s, 60s, and 70s. All high energy tributes, costumes, the sound, the instruments are there, they're live. It's tons and tons of fun. You'll know all the songs if you're into that, the classic rock or the old fashioned rock and roll. And we see a lot of different generations coming. Definitely, with Elvis and Johnny Cash, we get a lot of the older generation, but we're seeing a lot more kids coming in, grandparents bringing their kids and families, and people saying, oh yeah, we raised our kids on this kind of music. So it's really good to see people from all different generations coming to that show. It's been great ever since. It is still new, just like 80's, so still getting its feet on the ground and going through some things, but we're sculpting throughout the 2 years we've been open, picking out different acts and seeing what works, what doesn't work, and trying new things. And we try to keep the lineup fresh. So every time you come, you might see something different, might see something new. You never know who you're really going to see on that stage.
So what do you play an instrument yourself?
Yeah, so we in that show, we each do tributes to different people. So I do Elvis, Johnny Cash, Elton John, and in different lineups, I'll do Roy Orbison or Frankie Valli. We really just kind of go through, and then the guitar's live, the piano's there. She plays piano as well. Tony Turner from he was also in Pierce Arrow, is also in that show. Does Buddy Holly and a few other things, and plays his guitar. It's just a jamming show. We have a ton of fun.
I see the passion, folks. Can you see the passion? Like, you're passionate about it, and I love that. And I also think you're crazy because you started a show during COVID. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
Oh no, we were crazy.
You were crazy because and there was a few shows in town. I'm like, what in the heck are they doing? But what's cool is you're still here.
Yeah.
And so it can only get better. And so I really actually, I don't think you're crazy. I actually admire that because I think that was very risky, but very cool. So congratulations for hanging in there and doing it. And that's one of the things that, like, I put together this list of all the new shows this year, and quite frankly, I was shocked how many new shows we have in Branson this year. And I don't think the world out there knows how many new shows there are in Branson, and there are a lot. And so folks, if you're like, hey, there's nothing new going on, you are absolutely wrong. I'm guessing there's probably 20 new shows in Branson and when I say the last year, like, after we shut down after COVID through this year. So
just at Americana, there's 3 brand new shows this year.
Yeah.
So
anyway, okay. Tell me, so we know on the Awesome 80's that it is normally on Friday nights at 8 o'clock, and then Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays at 2.
Yes.
And so what about Rock and Roll Royalty? Like, when does that one happen, or is it just all over the board?
Yeah, it actually fits into a really great time slot. It's Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at 5 p.m. So it's that great time between your afternoon show and your night show. And we actually are one of the few theaters in town that actually serve alcohol. So if you like happy hour, get a drink, watch the show, get a quick dinner before your 8 o'clock show. It's a 90-minute show, so you're out by 6:30. So you still have about an hour and a half before your 8 o'clock to get a bite, do something else beforehand. And then we have a Friday afternoon show before 80's at 2 o'clock. So if you want something after lunch or before your night show as well, it's another option for you.
So is there any other shows in town at 5 p.m.? I don't know of
a few.
Our British Invasion show is at 5 p.m. And then I know Hamner's does a couple of 5 o'clock shows with ABBA and Bee Gees. And then
so there are a few.
There are a few. Well.
Yeah. So that's not a normal show time, but I think different show times can work for different things. So
absolutely,
and sometimes it's just trying to find that right slot anyway to make it all work. If there was a young kid out there that said, I'm thinking about coming to Branson, what advice would you guys give them?
Ooh.
Just do it.
Just do it.
I went to college 45 minutes away from my hometown because I didn't want to be far away from my family and my friends, and I didn't want to leave town. And my mom kept saying, "Oh, you should go to school further away." I didn't want to do that, and I just stayed close. And then the opportunity came, and I was really nervous to do it, and I did it. And I don't want to look back now. Now that you're here and you're doing it, you're performing for a living. It's like some at the busiest time you could see. I mean, we were doing 15 to 20 shows a week at one point, and just like it's invigorating, and it's the most tiring thing you'll ever. You're exhausted, but it's you get home, and you say, "Yeah, this is it."
Yeah, I went to. A couple of weeks ago now, I went in the course of 2.5 days, I went to 5 shows and 6 attractions. So I do this stuff, folks, not just talk to them, but I do it. I can't go to every show, but, and it was always, it's good for me to do that because I get to experience it like a tourist would. And man, we have great entertainers in town. And of course, that's why we do this show, is because we want the world to know about our entertainers. And here's the thing is, the more you do these shows, guess what? The more you hone your craft too.
Absolutely, yeah. It's saying yes. That's actually something that Michael Frost told me when I asked him how he's gotten to where he is in this town. And I think that's something great about Branson, is there are so many older mentors in this town who have done this forever, who are mentoring our younger generations coming to this town and working. And they're so willing to help and mentor. And he said, just say yes to everything. Yeah. And I think that's how both of us have kind of gotten to where we are, is just saying yes to doing tech work, even though it's not performing, saying yes to moving to a new city, saying yes to a new show, saying yes to new opportunities and new theaters. And it's how you build your resume, it's how you build connections, and it's ultimately just how you get more work.
I love it, folks. Yeah. Say yes to coming to Branson, Missouri, and go see their shows, awesome 80's and rock and roll royalty over at the Americana Theater, right in the heart of West Highway 76. We'll be back in just a moment to wrap the show up. Folks, we're wrapping the show up today. Thanks for watching. I just love that story of taking a risk and coming to town and networking and working hard. I love it. It's a great story. On next week's show, we're going to have some artists from Nashville Roadhouse Live. And so we look forward to talking to them and seeing what's going on in their world. We also have some upcoming events. Ozark Mountain Christmas is right around the corner. It's hard to believe, but it is almost here in a couple of weeks. Starting on November 1st, Branson turns into this magical Christmas wonderland. And I am excited to let you guys know that the Lights of Joy Christmas light drive-through will be all new Christmas lights. And so that's something that's happening. Of course, out at Silver Dollar City, they start November 6th and go through December 30th. And they have over 6.5 million Christmas lights. Of course, Christmas shows, all sorts of fun things. Here's still some things coming up right away that are limited engagements. The Oak Ridge Boys are going to be in town today and several other times throughout the rest of the season. We've got Jimmy Fortune today and a couple more times this year. Daly and Vincent, October 21st. The Music of Billy Joel, starring Michael Cavanaugh, October 22nd. That's a one-night show only. Neil McCoy coming up November 3rd. The Bellany Brothers, October 15th. Gene Watson, October 16th. The Gatlin Brothers, October 23rd. And we have Praise Fest with lots of Southern gospel acts on October 25th through the 27th. Now, here's the deal. You can go to ibranson.com. You can see a lot of these schedules and see their additional dates they may be playing. Sometimes they'll only announce one date, but they may have other dates coming up. So we have a lot of limited engagements this fall. And then we have our shows that are here all year long. We don't ever forget about them, but we also do want to let you know about those special limited engagements that are happening. And I didn't even cover them all in that segment there. So thanks for watching. If you need help planning your Branson vacation, go to ibranson.com. You can book online. You can book your shows, your attractions, your hotels. You can even get dining. And so go there and book. If you don't want to book online, you want to talk to a real person that lives and works and breathes here in Branson, Missouri, call them at 877-ENTERTAIN, and they can help you plan your entire Branson vacation. Thanks for watching. Check us out on Facebook. Like us. Let us know what you think and who you'd like to see in the future. And we'll see you soon on Play Branson.